Good afternoon, everybody. Today, we are going to do a special cookout today. Can't wait to show you what it is. We got some baby back ribs here that I picked up from our local Fresh Thyme. They had a special $3.99 a pound, so I figured that's a great price for practicing. Normally, I'd like to use ribs from a local farm, maybe some red wattles or anything from basically around here. But since this is an experimental recipe, I didn't want to throw any extra money into a rack of ribs that would potentially not turn out that great. So the good thing about these ribs is they already have pretty much most of the hard fat all trimmed off of them. The only thing we need to do is take off the silver skin here. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Get right back with you guys. Alrighty, so now we got all that silver skin off, and I'm excited to tell you what we are going to experiment with today. Onions. Now, we're not going to season with the onions. Today, we are going to smoke exclusively with the onions. So in order to see what the effect is the onion smoke has on these rack of ribs, we are just going to season with some basic salt and pepper. No slather, because I want to have as least amount of flavor from outside objects on this rack as possible. That way we can maximize the flavor of the onion smoke. So let's get this thing seasoned up. We'll be right back to throw it on the grill with you. Alrighty, here you'll see that we have our ribs already salt and peppered, and you'll notice that I cut this little bit out here too. Now the reason why I did that is I have a 14.5-inch Weber Smoky Mountain, which only gives me about 12 inches of worth of cooking space on the grate. So I had to take and cut this down so it could fit on the main cooking grate. So now that we have this all salted and seasoned here with the salt and pepper, what we're going to do is we're going to put it back in the fridge to sit for about an hour before we throw it on the grill. Now, there's a couple different thoughts here. Sometimes what people will do is they will actually leave their meat out at the counter to come up to temp a little bit, about a half hour before they go. But that is not good, and I'll tell you why. Alrighty, so there are two schools of thought when it comes to whether you rest your meat out at room temperature, let it come up to temp, or if you throw it back in the fridge. Now, for the people who leave their meat out at room temperature after seasoning to bring it up to temp, the reasoning behind is pretty simple. By increasing the internal temperature, you can cut down minutes, half hour, possibly even an hour of your cook time off the back end there. But because you're raising the internal temperature above 38 degrees Fahrenheit, you're actually making the meat in an environment to where more foodborne illnesses become more prevalent. So the way that I go about it is I season it and I throw it back in the fridge to keep it below 38 degrees and therefore more healthier. But, to each their own. You're cooking in the backyard. Go ahead, raise it up if you don't want to cook as long and everything. But for safety reasons, I like to throw my meat back in the fridge. So can't wait to throw it on and show you guys how we're going to do with this onion smoke. Alrighty. So in order to use these onions for onion smoke, I'm just going to cut them in halves. Voila! So, now that I got these in halves, these are ready. And all we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're going to throw them on the hot coals of the smoker. In my previous trials, I think about a half an onion lasts about 30-45 minutes. So I figured 1 onion per hour. We're doing some unwrapped ribs, so it should only take about 4.5 hours. So, ooh yeah, let's get this smoker fired up and get it warmed up for the meat here. Alrighty, we got our chimney stack going here, getting these coals lit. I have 2 different bags here, Rockwood's Lumpwood and then the Kingsford Blue Professional briquettes. Now, I started off smoking with a Kingsford, and I'm just wrapping up this bag of Rockwoods, which you can see right here. We're at the end of it, so I'm going to try to use it up in this smoke. The differences I found between these 2 bags are this. Rockwoods burns hotter. So if I want to do something like chicken, where I need to get a temperature of like at least 325, that's going to be a lot easier to get with this. However, it burns up quicker. If I want to maintain a more steady temperature at a lower profile, let's say about 225 to 250-ish, I like using the Kingsford. So I'm excited that we're going to get to use up this. You can tell by the way I loaded it. I'm getting down to the bottom here. There's just these little bits here. Just a tiny left here. So hopefully we can use these up then get back to the Kingsford here. Alrighty, we are back. Smoker's rolling. And we got the temperature up there about 230, 235. No smoke, but for flavor, we're gonna need smoke. So, time to add the onions. And I'm just gonna add this 1/2 at a time. Wait for some smoke to start coming up. It's smelling real good. Then we can add our meat. Got a little taster rib right there. A little picking on it. So that should be good. Now we just gotta wait for the smoke to start rolling. We can see the onion cooking in there, but there's hardly any smoke coming. But I am getting a smell coming up here, which smells like the onions are cooking. So as long as I can smell it coming through the vents, I think it's gonna be good to put the ribs on. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, remember I cut this down to size so I could fit it. And you'll notice that I kind of left about 1 inch on each side. And that's because on this specific cooker, the outside rim gets super hot and I didn't want to burn the ends. But we got a little taster here. Put it there. Now, next part is I'm going to spray the top just to get a nice thin layer of moisture. I don't want to wash off any of the seasoning. And that is the way it helps some of the onion smoke to adhere. And that's just water right here. So I just got a spray bottle of water. It's what I use my standard spritzes here. And we're going to spritz about once every 45 minutes. And the reason why I choose 45 minutes is you get the fresh layer of moisture on top. And then what happens is it helps attract smoke. And it also helps to slow down the browning process or the crust formation, because I don't want an immediate crust right away and I don't want it to burn right away. So I just want to help collect that smoke flavor as well as, you know, start to form a little bit of crust. And we just spritz it to keep it a little bit moist. But yeah, so we'll see you again in 45 minutes for another spritz. Smoke, smoke, smoke your meat gently over indirect heat. Merrily, 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 life's a tasty treat. So I was getting a little concerned by the small amount of smoke that was coming out of there. You can't see it on camera, but there's very little. And I know that if you have barely visible smoke, that's great, but it wasn't pumping out the volume of smell I was looking for. So I took these onions and I cut them into quarters. The reason being is I think that if I have 2 quarters burning at different points in the stove here, it'll help produce more smoke. Now, they'll burn quicker, but I have enough onions here to make sure that it can last the entire smoke, which should be about 4.5 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and put another quarter in here. As you can see, I have a half onion in there right now that's slowly burning, but we need more smoke. So throw this, let's throw it right there. So now we got 2. Close the door. Hopefully soon we can get some. And you know what? Just because I have these tongs. Alrighty. I'm getting more smoke coming out of here, which is good. I'm not sure how visible it is on camera because it is the little blue wisps, which is perfect for smoking. And it's just in time because we have to do our first spritz. So grab our water bottle. Take off the top. Oh yeah, see a little bit of blood going on there. Get a nice light coat again. Again, you just want to get the surface wet. I'm going to recover it. And we'll wait another 45 minutes to do another spritz. One tool that I did to help me out here with this when it comes to spritz timing is I set multiple alarms on my phone here. So I should have another one coming off in about 45 minutes. And I'll probably put on a couple more quarters of onions. Maybe 1 to 2 more between then. So I'll see you again in about 45 minutes. One thing that has me a little concerned, just a little bit, is there's hardly any smoke coming off. And generally you want smoke. And as any barbecue or pitmaster will tell you, you want to aim for like the blue smoke. And one thing that's kind of concerning but not really concerning is I can still smell the onions coming up through the vents. And in Aaron Franklin's book, he talks about how blue smoke is generally agreed best kind of smoke you can get, but he talks about another level of smoke where it's just invisible ripples that come off. And I'm guessing that's kind of like the mirage thing. So if I can focus in on here, and see, you can't see anything coming out, but I am smelling something. So that means to me that the onion is burning in a way that super small particles are being passed up through vapor, which is still coming in contact with the meat. So as long as that is happening, I'm fine. I'm going to trust the process here and see what happens in the end. But, you know, hopefully we'll get to see at the end of this video. For science! Spritz, spritz, spritz. Spritz, spritz, spritz. Spritz your meat. Spritz your meat. Well, I guess you gotta ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do ya? Guess not. Well, it's raining. Kind of killing my cook here. Really dropped the temp on it. So we're gonna try adding some more coals to it. Seeing if we can bring it back up. Rescue this cook. Well, maybe I should just let the rain spritz it, but look at that. Some good fat. Spritz, spritz, spritz. This one's coming along kind of nicely. Nice little bark there. Getting some good coloration now. So, all right, 45 more minutes. So I've just spritzed these here. We got about, maybe I'm guessing, hour and a half left. You can look at the color that's starting to get. Look at that small one. Great color. So I don't know how much of that is just from the heat that's caramelizing the skin, or how much of that's from the onion smoke, but you can kind of see these little white, yellowish, brownish deposits there. I'm guessing that's where some of the fat rendered and pooled. But we have this spritzed, hopefully about another hour and a half at most, and we're going to do a bend test. So come back here in about 45 minutes, do another spritz, check the bend, and go from there. See you later. So I ended up taking about 15 more briquettes and getting them started in here, and I added them down into the coal bed so we could get some extra heat, because this thing was just hovering at about 200. So, you know, it's going to run a little bit hotter, you know, upwards of 250. Even if it gets to 275, that should be okay. I just want to make sure that we can get this up to the correct internal temp without taking all night. So, yep, another spritz coming up here shortly. We'll see how it's going from there. Alrighty, it's been about 4.5 hours. We're going to do a bend test. I like doing the bend test instead of, yep, it's not ready. So you see how it didn't break and it didn't really bend. That means that it's not tender enough yet. So we have to go back. So generally speaking, you should always use a thermometer to check your meat. However, when you're doing a piece like ribs that have a lot of bones, those things can heat up the meat around it and give you kind of an improper reading. So go ahead, use a thermometer, it's fine. But the actual test that you want to do is the bend test. So you pick it up, and like I said, if it doesn't break like that, it's not tender enough. And we saw very little flexion in the rack there. So we know we still have some time to go. I'm guessing because we've been fighting the elements here, there might be another hour and a half at most. But I'll put on another spritz, and we'll have to just keep waiting until this thing gets smoked out right. The color's looking good at least. Alrighty, coming out to check these again. The temperature here is below 200, so I don't know if these are going to be able to get hot enough or tender enough on the inside, but we'll give it a test. I mean, the color looks good. The smell coming out of there is great. But we'll try this bend test right there. Nothing. And you can see, not really bending, so it's not tender enough, which means we need to pump up this temperature. I'm going to have to add some more coals again, and then keep going until they're ready. You know, these didn't pass the bend test, but I did take the tester off and try them. They're juicy, they're tender, so I'm going to go ahead and just pull these ones off. Granted, I understand that that's smaller, this is a larger piece, but I don't want to be here all day to try to get this. I think this cook is pretty much toasted, and we might as well go ahead and get them in our bellies. Alrighty, so we got the ribs here. You can see there looks to be a bit of a smoke ring there, but we'll go ahead and give this a taste test and see. Warm enough. There's a little bit of the pullback on the bones here, but not too much. Take a bite, see how it goes. First bite. Not really much onion smoke flavor. You can taste the pork, black pepper, the salt, but I'm not getting a strong onion smoke flavor. So, guys, the conclusion of this experiment is onion smoke doesn't add too much flavor, which is really a bummer because the way I was smelling coming out of the smoker was great. So, on to the next experiment.